And this is how we welcome you to Artistic Spot, a show about art, talent, and entrepreneurship, where you are also the artist. In Artistic Spot, we're actors and actresses of our movies, singers of our musicals, and writers of our books. Today, we are recording episode 94 from Favo. My name is Jose Rodriguez Marmol, and I'm your host. And our special guest today is Bob Smedley.
Right.
Thank you, Bob, for joining us and being part of our story in Artistic Spot. How are you today?
Great, thanks. Thanks for this opportunity. It's great to share the story in my art, for sure.
Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and for being part of Artistic Spot. Now, Bob, you are a mixed media artist, but you've been doing this not for too long. Can you tell us a little bit about your story behind all the beautiful things that we can see on the walls in your studio at Favo?
Well, this part of my art history is relatively new, like you said. It's about, this August will be 2 years. I had a piece of artwork I needed to have done for my bathroom, and a friend was going to do it. And we just didn't get around to it. And so he was down back home in Uruguay, and someone gave him a piece of artwork, and I thought, that would really look good in my bathroom if the colors were tweaked a little bit. And it was all paper. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to do that. And lo and behold, boom, that was my first piece, and it's hanging in my bathroom at the house. And so slowly, one by one, I just started doing more pieces, and it kind of evolved, you know. And I mean, I've always had a love for trees, so the first part of what I was doing was all birch trees. You know, a northern tree. I mean, I was born and raised here. And so I just love the birches. I did like a series of 35 of them, just over and over. So it's been relatively recent since I've been doing this type of artwork. And you said it's mixed media, so it's mostly just all paper, all kinds of paper, tissue paper, cardstock, magazines, flyers I get in the mail, anything that kind of comes across the table. If it's paper, it's up for grabs. So.
Now, Bob, you were talking about this experience in art being fairly new for you, but you have two pieces right here on the table that they have been with you for such a long time. So that passion for the arts goes back in time. Can you tell us by the time you started doing something in art and you said, this is something that I may like doing as a profession in the next few years? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was really involved in our neighborhood recreation department. They always had art classes. So I did this really teeny little decoupage piece, which my medium is using Mod Podge, which is the basis of decoupage. And it was always trees. And so this piece is like at least 30 years old, but this is watercolor. And if you begin to look at pieces in my studio now, they're trees. And I need to do this in paper, actually, right? That would be kind of a cool subject. Yes. But this is like at least 30 to 35 years old, and I just can't get rid of it. So, and it has my old signature that's kind of fading down here at the bottom. And so it's always been something, textiles, this is counted cross stitch. I went through a phase where I did lots of counted cross stitch. And again, my tree theme, which I've for some reason stuck with throughout the years. So, you know, I've done things at Creality Art Studios. I did raku. I taught macrame jewelry with wax linen.
Wow.
I had a cake business. I did all those designer cakes on TV. So my art has always been something creative going on, and this is just a really wonderful venue now for me to work in.
It is, but there's also a passion for the entertainment as a whole, not only arts as visual arts, but also performing. Can you tell us a little bit about the Orlando Gay Chorus, which you are a founding member back in the 90s? Can you tell us the story about that?
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. I had a history of singing in the church and was able to travel extensively with my singing with the church. So that was always a big part of me. And when the Orlando Gay Chorus started in 1990, it was a great opportunity, like, oh my God, that's finally coming to Orlando. And it was just a great organization. I would just always get so emotional thinking about music really bridges people, and it brings people together. It just heals people. And that's really what the chorus did. It brought a respectable part to the gay community, I felt. It was like we fit into I didn't want to be necessarily be mainstream, but we fit into the music community. And it was real challenging. I was the second president. David Schuler was the first president, and he helped get the chorus started. And it was just a great opportunity for me to be part of the leadership. And we had a lot of challenges through the chorus. We experienced a lot of discrimination. Financially, we had United Arts. Their leaders said that they couldn't fund us because of her religion.
Wow.
And so it was a really big issue in the community of, we still need to keep going forward. This is just another hurdle for us to get over.
I mean, it's pretty obvious the changes that have been made through the years, especially within the gay community. But how hard that has been and how important it has been for you to be a representation for the gay community as an artist?
Well, I just see myself as an artist, and I just happen to be gay. And so they just go hand in hand. That's just part of it. I don't put a gay sign out, but certainly I'm not closeted by any means in my art. So it's just part of me. And so I don't even think secondarily anymore, which isn't that great.
Yes.
I used to have to think, oh my God, what if someone finds out? I don't even have to worry about that. That's just secondary, So it's just part of me. And it's not something I have to separate, which is great nowadays.
It's true. You mentioned something about music that it's a bridge and it bridges people together, it heals. Do you do the same thing with visual arts and everything you do in a canvas?
It's unbelievable when we have our FAVO Friday and Saturday nights, the first Friday of every month and first Saturday. When people come in the studio, it's really interesting to see which piece they focus on and what it does to them. It's like, oh my God, that looks like my backyard when I was growing up. Or this piece reminds me of New York City. It's like, so the art does something to someone, and it's so funny how emotional I get when someone says, oh my God, that is just so beautiful. And then what's interesting too, we have a lot of students that come through and they'll stand in front of one piece for 30 minutes and dissect it.
Yes.
I like this, I like that, this is speaking to me, oh, I don't know about that. So it's really interesting to see what people do with the art and which piece they pick. Some of the pieces I would aren't necessarily my favorites, speak to someone else, which is great.
What are you trying to portray in your art? Which is the message that you would like to give the audience? Even though, of course, it will be subjective, and people will, of course, resonate with the piece depending on their experiences. But if you were able to say something that you would like to deliver when you're doing your job, what would that be and why?
When I do a piece, I don't have political messages, I don't have necessarily spiritual messages, I don't have a lot of intent. It's just something I want to create. Then, when someone's looking at the piece, that's when the magic happens. The piece over here against the wall with the gold and the magazine roll-ups, when you sit here and look at it, what do you see?
Well, I can see a bird.
Okay, that was not my intent. My intent was to make waves.
Wow.
So when I assembled the piece, I had no intent in making a bird. And so after it was done, one of my friends says, oh my God, that's a peace dove. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I don't see it. After she said it, then I saw the bird, the peace dove.
And now that you said it was waves, I can see the waves.
Right. So I don't necessarily make a piece with an intent of something, but it always happens. When people eventually look at the work, it's like, okay, I know what that means for me. It may not have been what my intent was, which is really cool. Yeah. So the piece becomes something to someone. It may not have been what my intent was, but they're able to see something in it, which is cool.
If you were able to go back in time and choose one experience that you have had that went straight close to your heart and said, oh, this is my calling and this is why I need to keep on doing this, what experience would that be?
I think it's just being able to make art accessible to people. Next door, Catherine teaches classes to children. So when the weather's better, I sit here with my door open while I'm working and the curtains are open. And this little girl came by, she couldn't have been more than four or five. And it was around Thanksgiving, and she made a turkey. You know, they traced her hand for the feathers, and the thumb was the face and the head. And she stopped in front of the door with her mother, and she was so serious. And she says, "Mom, this is the most beautiful thing I've made in my whole life."
Wow.
And I just thought, oh my God, that's what it's about, making things that are really beautiful. And the turkey I saw in her hand, it was just a turkey, but it was the most beautiful thing in the world to her. So that's what I'm looking for with art, and being able to make people feel like this is something really beautiful that I can relate to and take with me.
And what does it make you feel as an artist? Because we're talking about the message for the audience and how third parties and people see everything and the message that it gets you. But what about Bob inside? If you go down and think and resonate, how it resonates with you as a human being, as a person?
Well, since this is this part of my life where I wouldn't necessarily say it's commercial, but I'm making art that I'm selling at this point. So that's something new. Not my intent by any means at the beginning of doing these pieces, but it resonates with people. And like I said, you never know what piece people like. For instance, last Saturday night, there was a piece right here that was probably one of my unfavorites, but it was one I created. Someone absolutely loved it, and it walked out the door.
Wow.
You know, so that's what's really cool, being able to see the art resonate with someone, and then they like it so much they take it with them.
You have focused everything on doing trees and using a lot of people for your artwork, but what's your inspiration as an artist? Because all artists, they find inspiration in something. What inspires Bob to do these magnificent pieces that we have all around his studio?
Everything from photographs. I have a folder in my phone of pieces where people brought a photograph to me and said, "Bob, I just love this. Can you replicate this?" So I'll take the photograph, put it on the stand, because I have tables here. I do all my work here in the studio. And it kind of just goes from the photograph to the paper. And so that's kind of fun. I'll see things YouTube is very inspirational. Things that you see people, lots of creativity, people on YouTube, so I get inspiration from that. I get inspiration from magazine photos. The palm trees over here, the bright yellow, the bottom one was the first one, and that was inspired by a photograph of giraffes.
Wow.
So when I saw the photograph of giraffes, I saw palm trees, because it was all just for their necks. Mm-hmm. And I thought the colors were really that vibrant yellow and those colors, but I saw palm trees rather than giraffes. So you have no idea where inspiration will be coming from. I just did, in the spring here in Orlando, there's these beautiful yellow trees called yellow tababuyas. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're canary yellow and beautiful. When I lived by Lake Davis, so I was walking around the lake and they were all blooming. So I took pictures of beautiful live oaks cascading down to Lake Davis and these beautiful tababuya trees. So somewhere down the road, I'm going to do a series of these old live oaks in Orlando and these beautiful yellow tababuya trees. So inspiration kind of comes from everywhere. My travels, photographs. I just got back from Belize, and there was some amazing foliage photos that I took. So there's going to be a tropical series to come along because things are so beautiful.
What's next for you?
Well, this is I think this is going to be a good long-term thing for me, which is great. I'm enjoying my retirement. I worked for the county for 39 years, and so this is totally different from the probationary work that I did supervising domestic violence offenders. So this, I think, will be long-term for me because it's this creative process is just such a big part of me.
So how do you celebrate life through happiness, through color and vibrant paintings?
Well, I guess one of the things that's always been a big part of me is just being happy with myself, and that just makes me comfortable. And so that gives me inspiration. I've never been a real negative person, even in coming out days, in my religious background, never negative. There's just no room for it. There's no reason to be negative. You have too much beauty around you. When you come here to Favo, and you see all these amazing artists, and you can't help but have this happy, positive energy because I'm surrounded by creativity. What a great thing.
Yes.
I drive onto the property and galleries are open and I get to see people's work, and it's just, it's constant happiness. I just can't get away from it, which is great.
Yes.
When we've got so many challenges going on, I come here and it's just a wonderful, positive energy. So it just kind of soaks up into you.
Where can people follow you?
I'm on Instagram at bob.smedley artworks. So that's on Instagram. I need to use that more. Before I retired, I wasn't on any type of social media, just because of the type of clients that I dealt with.
Yes.
It wasn't good to be out and about with social media.
Correct.
And so social media is still new to me, barely like 2 years. So I'm on Facebook at Bob Smedley, and you can see a lot of my artwork, and I post things on Facebook as well. My website is still under construction, and it'll be bobsmedleyartworks.com, so that should be coming up soon. And so the Facebook and the Instagram are good ways to get in touch with me.
Excellent. Make sure to visit Bob's social media handles so you can see the wonders that he does with art. So now, Bob, before we leave, I want to give you the microphone so you can talk to the audience watching us in our YouTube channel, listening to us everywhere podcasts are available.
Well, I get a lot of inspiration from people who walk through this door. People come in and you see them looking at pieces, and then they start to talk, and you get their story, which is the greatest part of this community. And then you'll see people say, I do art, not as good as this. And I said, well, show me. So I said, I know you've got something in your phone. Show me. So they show me their work, and I said, this is wonderful. Don't minimize your creativity. Give it an opportunity to really grow and expand. One of our new artists, he just moved in a couple months ago, beautiful watercolorist. And he's had his artwork under his bed for years. And now he has a studio here. So I think it's being able to plug into whatever your creativity is and let it develop. And it may be something that's very basic and rudimentary as far as getting started, but give yourself an opportunity. People come in and say, oh, I'm not creative. I said, I can find a creative bone in your body. We can sit down and we can help you find that creativity, whether it's music, whether it's art, whether it's writing. I'm not the world's greatest writer. I'm always amazed at people's creativity with writing. So finding what really inspires you is the important thing, and then just pursue it. I never would have thought this would have happened 3 years ago. And now I come here and it's a constant source of creativity. So just tap into that. Everybody has some level of creativity. They really do.
That's an amazing message. Thank you so much, Bob, for being part of our story, for being part of episode 94 of Artistic Spot. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing the beautiful information and message to our audience. Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks for having me.
And those of you, our audience, don't forget to tune us back in next week in Artistic Spots, where you are also the artist.